So let's start with the 17th problem. Refrigeration Limited supplied refrigerators to Ashok Hotel on the installment system on 1st July 2004. The cash price was rupees 22,350. Under the installment system, it was agreed to pay rupees 6,000 on that date, so this becomes a down payment, and rupees 6,000 annually for 3 years. So if you read the problem, it's exactly like how you would have a higher purchase. Only thing the difference is they've said it's bought on installment system. Interest was chargeable at 5% per annum and depreciation was to be written off at 10% per annum on diminishing balance method. Past journal entries in the books of Ashok Hotel, the books are closed on 30th June every year. Now, even though the problem says just past journal entries, I'm going to do, since it's the first problem under the installment system, I'm going to do the journal entries as well as the ledger accounts, and I will do it both in the books of the buyer as well as the seller. Okay, but you're not going to get so much since I did the first problem under higher purchase that way. I would like to do this also the same way, so that there is one complete problem how it is in the books of the buyer as well as the seller. So we may not finish this today, we may have to go on with it on Monday. Anyway, let's see what we can do. So I want you all to identify who's the buyer and who's the seller here. Quick, quick. Who's the buyer and who's the seller? Turn on your audio if you don't want to type. Who's the buyer and who's the seller?
Ashok Hotel.
Ashok Hotel is the buyer.
Ma'am, Ashok Hotel.
Ashok Hotel. Yes, very good. Ashok Hotel is the buyer and Refrigeration Limited is the seller. Normally, why I asked you this, because they normally start with the buyer first. Okay, normally, so don't get confused. Don't just pick up the names. Read the sentence. They said Refrigeration Limited supplied refrigerators to Ashok Hotel. So Ashok Hotel becomes the buyer. Refrigeration Limited becomes the seller. Okay, on the installment system. So the agreement was signed on 1st July 2004. Cash price was this much. Under the installment system, it was agreed to pay rupees 6,000 on that date and 6,000 annually for 3 years. So down payment is 6,000. All the installments are also 6,000. Interest was chargeable at 5% per annum. Depreciation on this. Past journal entries in the books of Ashok Hotel. The books are closed on 30th June every year. So they signed the agreement on 1st July, and the first installment comes after 1 year because it's 6,000 annually. So 1 year later will also be 30th 1st July 2004. 1 year later will be 30th June 2005. So basically, our closing and our closing date and installment date coincide, not like yesterday's problem. Okay, so yesterday's problem there was slight confusion because of that. Fine. Let's start now. This is exactly the same like our initial problems. Very simple. So we have a date on 1st July 2004. Opening balance of cash price, they told us the cash price 22,350. Now you tell me, I think by now you should know this. Okay, first we have the down payment. We make the down payment. There is no interest on down payment, so the installment becomes 6,000. I'm not showing depreciation because like I said, I prefer to do depreciation in the statement itself. Okay, so closing balance of cash price will be 22,350 minus 6,000 will become 16,350. Okay, so we have done the down payment. Now we have to pay the first installment, which happens at the end of the year, because they said pay 6,000 on that date and 6,000 annually for 3 years. So 30th June 2005. This is 1 year later. So opening balance is 16,350. Now I want you to tell me where that 6,000 is going to come. Is it here? Is it in the cash price paid or is it in the installment? Look at it and tell me. Look at it and tell me. This is where you need to distinguish. Because if you take it in the wrong one, the entire thing goes wrong. That 6,000 which is the installment, is it in the installment column or is it here? Because if it's here, then we have to calculate interest additionally and then this will be 6,000 plus that interest. So where should I put it? Here or here? Cash price paid or installment? Quick, quick. No response? Nobody knows? Very good. It's going to be very good. Okay. Why did it take so much time? Very good. It's going to be the installment. If it was, they had said 6,000 annually for 3 years plus interest, then it would have been here. So please get the difference. Sometimes they use plus interest, with interest. Okay. We have done these in the initial problems. Check out problem 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including your homework problems. So we have to now calculate interest on this. So interest will be 16,350 into 5%. There is no need of a period because it's for the whole year. So 16,350 into 5% comes to, just check it out, 16,350 into 5. It comes to 817.5. So I'm going to round it up to 880. Okay. So 6,000 minus 818, the cash price component is 5,182. So here we get 16,350 minus 5,182, we will get 11,168. Okay. We go to the next one, 30th June 2006, 11,168. We have 6,000 here. So now it's on 11,168 into 5% comes to 558. If you get a decimal point, if you can round it up. Okay, 0.45 and above has to be rounded up. So this becomes 6,000 minus 558, which is 5,442. And then this will be 168 minus 5,442 gives me 5,726. So we come down to the last one now, 3 installments. So this will be the last one. 5,726, 6,000. So, okay, now we have to, sorry, this is not what has to be done. We need to be a little careful. Now I need this as nil. Okay, I need this as nil. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the same amount here. I'm going to write the same amount here and the interest will be the difference. The interest is going to be different. So 6,000 minus 5,726 comes to 274. If I calculate interest on this, for example, if I take 1 minute, Michelle, I'll just finish this. If I calculate interest on that, 5,726 into 5%, it comes to 286. If I calculate 5% of this, it comes to 286. So if I have 286 here, then this won't tally. We'll have a different amount here and then we'll still have something. We don't want anything here. This needs to be 0. So this becomes the balancing figure. So how did I get that? It is basically it is 6,000 minus 5,726. 6,000 minus 5,726. Okay. Michelle, why is it 30th June 2005? Okay. What should it be according to you? You tell me what it should be. Then I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong. What do you think it should be? If you don't give me your answer, okay, let's count a year. Our books open on 1st July 2004, right? Okay, and they've clearly mentioned your books are closed on 30th June every year. So if you paid the down payment, say suppose you have paid the down payment on 1st July 2004 and they're saying annually, that means 1 year later. Okay, so if 1st July, so count from 1st July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. When do you complete 12 months? On 30th June. If you're saying this should be on 1st July, then it makes sense. This you can take this as 1st July 2005 also. But it would be better 1 year later, it would be better on 30th June itself. Okay, but this can't be 31st, this can't be, what is that, 31st July. It can't be 31st, so that will be 13 months. Is that clear? So the total here is 24,000. This becomes, the total here is 1650. So I think this total should come to 22,350. Is that clear? So basically what happens here, the only difference under the installment and hire purchase, there is no difference at all in the analysis of payment. It's only the entries that are different. That too, just two entries that are different. Okay. So first we'll start in the books of Ashok. That's the buyer in the books of Ashok. Like I said, I'm going to do the journal entries. Though the question says only journal entries, I'm going to do the journal entries and the ledger accounts. Journal entries and the ledger accounts. So we have journal entries in the books of Ashok. I'm also going to do the ledger accounts in the books of Ashok. Okay, the first thing will be the set account. The set here is a refrigerator account. After that, we have the seller's account. The seller here is refrigeration limited. Refrigeration limited account. Then we have to prepare now under this method or under the installment system, we have interest suspense account. Interest suspense account, and we also have our usual interest. Though there's depreciation, I'm not opening the depreciation account. I've already shown you in one problem how the depreciation account would look. Most likely they're not going to ask you the depreciation account, so you don't need to open that. Is that clear? So let's start posting the entries. Now we are in the books of the buyer. We are not talking about hire purchaser, hire vendor anymore. We are just talking about buyer, seller, buyer and vendor, or purchaser and vendor, however you like it. So the first entry is, try to recollect the entries. Normally the entry would be a set account debit to hire vendor's account. But here we don't use the word hire vendor, and we also following the interest suspense method. So it's a set account debit, interest suspense account debit to seller's account. Okay. So on 1st July we have dates here. Write the dates. 1st July 2004. A set here is what? It's a refrigerator. Refrigerator account debit, interest suspense account debit to who's the seller here? Refrigeration limit. To refrigeration limit. Okay. Now be careful when you're putting the amounts. Refrigerator is always, the set is always by the cash price. The cash price is here 22,350. Interest suspense account is by the total interest 1650, and the refrigeration is by the total price. Okay, the total price you end up paying because you have taken it on installment system, that is 24,000. So here the narration will be being refrigerator purchased on installment system. Being refrigerator purchased on installment system. Now since we are doing the ledger accounts, we need to post these things accordingly in the ledger accounts. I hope you know how to post this. So we have three parts here. So it will be refrigerator account debit to refrigeration limited. So here we have on 1st July 2004, to refrigeration limited. Be careful what amount you take. Please, yeah, minute. Be careful what amount you take. Okay, let's look at the amounts. You're going to take, since you're saying it's a refrigerator account, it's not going to be this, even though it's refrigeration limited, it's going to be your cash price. Please be careful. I hope you know to post these things. So it's refrigerator account debit to refrigeration, so it's going to be 22,350, 22,350. Then we also have, so if you're saying refrigerator account to refrigeration, in refrigeration we will have buy on the same date, buy refrigerator account 22350. Okay. Then we also have the second part of the entry, that's interest suspense account debit to refrigeration. So we need to go to our interest suspense account. Is our interest suspense account? Yeah. Interest suspense account on the same date to refrigeration limited. The total interest is 1650, and if we say to refrigeration, here we will have to have it as on the same date by interest suspense account, by interest suspense account. Which will be 1650. Okay, I hope this is clear. I hope this posting is clear. That's why I'm doing it simultaneously. So if you see refrigeration limited, if you see refrigeration, how this would have come in refrigeration, buy and buy. Okay, so that's how it's come. Buy and buy. Buy refrigerator, buy interest suspense account. Is this clear? So we are done with the first entry. We also have the down payment on the same date. So we'll pass the entry for down payment. So we don't need to write the date again. If it's the same date, you can just continue there. So the down payment will be, since you're paying, it will be, you're paying to refrigeration. So refrigeration account, sorry, refrigeration limited debit to bank. Debit to bank. How much is the down payment? Down payment is 6,000. So here we'll have being down payment made. This entry doesn't come anywhere else, as in besides just one account. So here you will have in refrigeration limited, you will have on the same date 1st July 2004 to bank 6,000. Okay. So we are done with the first two entries that happen only in the first year. Now we have to start with our sequence. Now normally our sequence would be the interest, and we would have said interest account debit to higher vendors. Okay. But here we don't have a higher vendor, and we don't say interest account debit to seller, but interest account debit to interest suspense account. As you pay the interest suspense account has to decrease. That's the whole point here. Okay, so it's going to be on which date? You need to be careful. This is now end of the year. So 30th June 2005, interest account debit to interest account debit to interest suspense account. Interest account debit to interest suspense account. The interest of the first year, let's just check it. The interest of the first installment is 818. 818. 818. You can say being interest due. Being interest or being interest on installment due. Being interest on installment due. Okay, so same thing in the respective accounts. Interest account debit to interest suspense account. So where's our interest? So in interest suspense account, it will be by interest on 30th June 2005 by interest 818, and in interest it will be, normally we would have had the higher vendor's name here, but here we show it as interest suspense. To interest suspense account 818. To interest suspense account 818. So once we show the interest, the next thing is what we do, we pay the installment. So come back here to pay the installment. So installment will be the same entry, just copy the same thing. On the same day, refrigeration account limited debited to bank, being installment, or you can say first installment paid, up to you, being installment paid. Okay, so if you say refrigeration account limited to bank, here you will have on 30th June 2005 to bank. This is basically your down payment. We just want to distinguish, and this is the installment. Okay, so we have posted this entry. Then we have now we have depreciation in this problem. We have depreciation in this problem, so we also need to provide for depreciation. So what is the entry for depreciation? Depreciation account debit to the asset account. Here the asset is refrigerator. Now it will be easier to calculate the depreciation in the asset account itself. So we'll just calculate that depreciation and come. So depreciation. So in refrigerator here it will be by depreciation. 30th June 2005 by depreciation. The amount of depreciation, percentage of depreciation, I think is 10% on diminishing balance method. So how much will that be? By depreciation, 10% of 22,350 for the whole year will be 2235. Will be 2235. Okay, so we have the amount. Somebody wants, you can do it right up in the analysis of payment. It's up to you. I showed you both ways. You see what you're comfortable with. Nobody is going to minus your marks if you don't do it there. Being depreciation charged. Being depreciation charged. Okay, so we have already shown the entry. The next thing is, as usual, we need to transfer both depreciation and in the interest to profit and loss account. So if you remember, it was both are expenses for the buyer. So it will be profit and loss account debit to interest and debit to depreciation. Okay. So the interest is how much for this year? 818, and depreciation is 2235. Yes, interest is 818 and depreciation is 2235. So the total comes to 3053. 3053. So we say being interest and depreciation transferred to P and L account. Being interest and depreciation transferred to P and L account. Okay. So if we say P&L account to interest, debit to interest, in interest we will have by, where is the interest account? Here as usual, this in the interest account you will have on the same date by P and L account. Same amount, 818. We would have had the same thing by P&L account in depreciation, but we don't have a depreciation account. So that entry doesn't need to feature. Okay. So now we have passed all the entries. We have to close. We have already closed this. We have already closed the interest account. It's balancing. We have to close the interest suspense. Now here you need to be a little careful. Okay. In the interest suspense account, you will have a balance that's going to be carried down till the last year. Because like I said, as you show the interest, this will come down. 1650 will decrease and soon after 3 years it will become nil. So here you'll always have a balance carried down. So on the same date, like how you have for the other accounts, by balance carried down. By balance carried down, I think will be 1650, 1650, check, 1650 minus 818 is 832, 832. So bring down the balance so that you don't forget about it. So on 1st July 2005, if it's closing on 30th June, opening will be on 1st July. To balance brought down. It is 832. 832. Okay. Similarly, close this. This is how we normally close. So here you'll have total of 22,350 plus 1650 will be comes to 24,000. 24,000 minus 12 will be 12,000. So 30th June 2005 to balance carried down. Bring down the balance so that you don't forget. 1st July 2005 by balance brought down will be 12,000. Close the asset account as well. 22,350 22,350 30th June 2005 by balance carried down. By balance carried down. So 22,350 minus 2235, 22,350 minus 2235 is 20,115. Bring down the balance. 1st July 2005 to balance brought down 20,115. So we are done with the first year. We move on to the second year. Okay. So second year, same thing. So right now we finish on 30th June 2005. Our next year ending is 30th June 2006. So we directly move here. 30th June 2006. So the first is the interest one, interest entry. So it's interest account debit to interest suspense account. The second interest is 558. 558. 558. I will just copy the narration to save time. Being interest on installment due. Let's post these accordingly. If you say interest account debit to interest suspense account, in interest suspense account you will have same thing by interest. by interest. 30th June 2006 by interest. The amount is 558. Same thing. Same thing will be in the interest account. So interest account debit to interest suspense account. To interest suspense account 558. Okay, so the one entry is done, the interest entry is done. Next we move on to the payment of the installment. So it will be refrigerator limited debit to bank. Same day. And we know it is 6,000. Being installment paid. Being installment paid. So refrigeration limited account. Sorry, it's not refrigerator. Refrigeration. Refrigerator is the asset. Refrigeration. Okay, sorry about that. Refrigeration limited account debit to bank. So on 30th June 2005, sorry 2006 to bank 6,000. Okay, so after payment of the installment, the next thing is we have to charge the depreciation. So I'll just copy the entry to save time so that we don't waste time. You can at least finish in the books of the higher, the books of the buyer. So depreciation account debit to refrigerator. Now we need to calculate the depreciation. So we'll post this entry here first in the asset account. 30th June 2006 by depreciation. Now again we are following the written down value method or the diminishing balance method. Okay, so every year the depreciation will keep changing and it's calculated on the opening balance. So opening balance of this year is 20,115. So basically 10% of this becomes 2011.5. 2011.5. Okay, so I'm going to make it 2012. 0.5 will round up to, this will become 12 rupees. So instead of 2011, 2012. Is that clear? Okay, so depreciation is 2012. And then finally the last entry where we transfer the depreciation and the interest to profit and loss account. So profit and loss account debit to interest to depreciation. Just copy the narration. Interest is, I think, the interest is 558, yes, 558. Depreciation is 2012. So the total here becomes 2570. Okay. Same thing now, since we have said profit and loss account debit to interest. So in interest account, we're going to have this. By P&L account 55. So this closes automatically. We need to close this. Okay. So here I said till the end you will have a balance carry down. So on 30th June 2006, at the day of our closing, by balance carried down. Okay. So let's see, the total is 832. So 832 minus 558 should actually get your the remaining interest. What is left? 832 minus 558, 274. You see your first interest will also be 270. The interest that is left to be charged is 274. Okay, so that's going to become nil in the last year. So if you say buy balance carried down, first July 2006, 2 balance brought down 274. 274. Similarly, close this account. So the total here is 12,000. 12,000. Balance is 6,000. So 30th June 2006, 2 balance carried down 6,000. Don't forget to bring down the balance. So 1st July 2006. Don't get confused with the dates. So whenever it's June, July, no, that there can always be a confusion. So please be careful. Buy balance brought down becomes 6,000. This also by balance carry down. Here we have a total of 2115. 2115 minus 2012, 18103. Bring down the balance. 1st July 2000 2006, 2 balance brought down 18103. So we have reached our last year. Okay, so the same thing we follow again. So we move to the last year now. So the last sequence starts on 30th June 2006. Previous one was, 30th June 2007, not 30th June 2007. Yeah. 30th June 2007. Okay, I'll just copy the entry. So the first entry is interest account debit to interest suspense account. Interest account. Instead of the higher vendor, we say interest suspense account. Okay. So the last interest I think is 274. 274. Let's check. Yes, last interest is 274. So post this accordingly in the relevant account. So in interest suspense, it will be by interest. 30th June 2007. Opening is to the 1st July 2006. Closing will be 30th June 2007. So by interest 274. And if you see, this account is closing. It's tallying. So there is nothing else to be done here. Okay. So 274. Similarly, in the interest account, say interest account debit to interest suspense account. To interest suspense account 274. Next, we move on to payment of the installment. Refrigeration account limited debit to bank. The same thing. Refrigeration account limited debit to bank. So if you are saying refrigeration account limited to bank, in refrigeration limited we will have 30th June 2007 to bank 6,000. So if you see, this is also closed. You won't have any balance. Okay. Then we move on to the depreciation. Depreciation, we have to charge the depreciation. Charge the depreciation. So we can't know the depreciation until we go to the account and calculate it. So we'll just say by depreciation here, 30th June 2007 by depreciation. So you have 18103 into 10% will give you 1810. 0.3, 0.3 we don't round up. Okay, so depreciation is 1810. 1810. 1810. And finally, transfer the interest, both the expenses to the profit and loss account. So interest was 274, depreciation is 1810. Put together they come to 208, 208, 208. Yes, we don't need all this. So if we say in interest account, we need to say by P&L account 274. If there was depreciation, in depreciation also, like I did in one problem, it would be by P&L account. Okay. We don't need that extra row. So the interest account is done. If you see this, this is also tallying. Okay, there's no balance left. That's what I said. There won't be any balance carried down. It is whatever balance is there is paid. The interest has been paid. So there won't be any balance. So that's how the interest suspense. You transfer everything to interest suspense, and year by year you reduce it. So this closes this way. Close this also. There's nothing else. There is no balance carried down. Both are tallying. Okay. And only you will have a balance in the uh, asset account because the asset won't disappear. So on the same date, by balance carried down. This is 18103.
Ma'am, 2007, no? Oh, no, no.
What happened?
Nothing, ma'am.
Uh,
No, ma'am, it's 1st July 2007, right?
which
Two
one?
balance, two balance brought down the amount which you just wrote. Two balance brought down. You wrote 2006.
This one?
Ma'am, the amount
This
which you are
one?
writing just yes, yes, just
This is
this one.
what? Rishvesh?
Ma'am, 2007, no?
Think
Oh,
again
sorry.
and tell
Oh,
me.
it's the opening balance. Okay, sorry. My
Okay?
bad. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah, got it.
18103 minus 1810. 16293. You'll always have a balance here because the asset still remains. Okay, so this is how it looks. So if you see, we have done the same thing except we have that interest suspense in between. So that slightly changes the interest. Any questions? In the next lecture, I'm going to show it in the books of the seller. That is in the books of Refrigeration Limited. Just since it's the first problem, so you know both ways. Okay, the analysis of payment I'm not going to do again. I'm going to continue here itself. I'm not going to do the analysis of payment again because that's the same. Only the journal entries. Is that clear? Any questions, anyone? Any questions? Okay. So basically hire purchase installment system, there's not much of a difference, but only that method that we follow the interest suspense. Actually, under hire purchase also you can follow this interest suspense method where you show the interest this way. It's not only that it's followed for the installment system, but then in the syllabus you don't have that method. It's not specified. It's specified only for the installment system.